कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा
प्रभु जी रेडी प्रभु जी
कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। शिला प्रभुपाद की जय।
यू
थैंक
कैन
यू प्रभु
वेलकम
जी,
दया
थैंक यू
मुरारी
भाई।
प्रभु
ओके प्रभु। हरे कृष्णा हिज ग्रेस दया मुरारी प्रभु जी की जय हो।
Hare Krishna, Prabhu ji, all
So
glories to
Prabhu
you.
ji, on behalf of this congregation, our Shiksha Guru, His Grace Rubra Prabhu ji, and all the devotees, those who are connected and listening, so I personally have a pleasure to welcome you. And you have selected a very nice topic, सुदामा। हैं उसका नाम सुनते ही आंसू आने लगते हैं, रोंगटे खड़े हो जाते हैं, एक्सप्रेसिव हो जाती है। So thank you very much for that topic. So I all personally welcome you for this Nectarian Katha. So please carry on. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna.
Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Dandavat pranam to all the Acharya, all the Guru, and all the Vaishnavas on the call. Thank you, Prabhuji, for introducing me, and I'll try my level best um, to narrate some wonderful incidences and pastimes which happened in this story. I'll try to give a justice to it in my limited capacity. Thank you so
Hare
much.
Krishna. Hare Bol.
ॐ अज्ञानतिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुर्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीवदाभगतफलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरातं सागना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावभूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सगना ललिता श्रीविशाखावृतांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिदा कांता राधा कांता नमस्ते तप्त कंचना गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी विश्वभानुसुते देवी परामामि हरि प्रिये वंशाकल्पतरुवैश कृपा सिंधु एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधार श्रीवासारि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। श्री राज ग्रंथ श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की जय, गुरु महाराज की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। So today I'm going to be talking from the Krishna book, which is chapter 80 and 81. It's the meeting of Lord Krishna with the Sudama Brahman. Now, the backdrop to this particular pastime is, so Parikshit Maharaj was listening to Srila Sukdev Goswami, and before this pastime began, Srila Sukdev Goswami had already narrated about Lord Balram's visit to the different holy dham. So this is just before the war of Kurukshetra, which was about to begin, and Balramji was in the different holy dhams. And after that, Parikshit Maharaj was very much eager to hear more about the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. So he says, so he begins telling Srila Sukdev Goswami, he says that the Lord Krishna, he is not only the bestower of love, but also liberation. So what he's saying is that one who is always engaged in loving service to the Lord will also automatically get liberation. He doesn't have to make a separate endeavors for that. Then he says that typically in this material world, the conditioned souls are actually frustrated in their attempts to seek happiness by their sense gratification. So all their endeavors, what they make to get sense gratification, happiness, is only results into a frustration. But for a devotee, since he is engaged himself in the loving service of the Lord, he is being freed from this material activity and sense gratification. Then Parikshit Maharaj is further stating, Srila Sukdev Goswami, that there are typically two kind of people in this world. So the first is, he says, there are called Vishayana. Vishayana means the one means moros. The word Vishayana means moros. And then the second is called Vishayjana. Vishayjana means transcendentalist. So he says that the materialistic people are always moros in life. So why they are moros? Because they are moros because they are always complaining, or they are always lamenting about their past. They are always in the painful situation in their present state because of the um, three modes of material nature, and because of the miseries, threefold miseries of life. So they're always in the painful state in their present situation of life, and they're always uncertain about the future. As a result, they're always in this moral state. And then the other end is the transcendentalists. Now, again, the transcendentalists are again of two types. So one are called personalists and another are called impersonalists. Now, impersonalists are the one who are not directly engaged in the pastimes, or not engaged directly in learning or hearing about the pastimes of the Lord, but they want to get merged with the Lord through the Brahman effulgence of the Lord. Now, Parikshit Maharaj says that even for these devotees who are impersonalist, they are, although they are superficially or they are artificially just engaging themselves in the pastimes of the Lord, but they don't have real interest in serving the Lord. So their frustration may be there in the material world, because of which they are seeking liberation from this world. And once they seek liberation, they want to get merged with the Brahma effulgence of the Lord. But the question is that why does that also leads to frustration? Because even after you get merged with the Brahman effulgence of the Lord, then you will do what? Because you are not directly serving the Lord anyhow. So that will be like, after going there, then there is no more activity. But for a devotee, whether he is in this material world or he is in the spiritual world, he is continuously engaging himself in serving the Lord. And how does the devotee do that? So devotee uses his eyes to see the beautiful form of the Lord. He uses his head in bowing down to in front of the Lord. He uses his ears in listening to the transcendental glories of the Lord. He uses his hand in decorating the Vigraha of the Lord. He uses his feet to go to the holy dham and do parikrama of the dham. So that way, a devotee is engaging himself, his senses, in serving the Lord. In this context, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila has given a very beautiful shloka. It goes this way. Sadhu Sangha Nama Kirtan Bhagavat Shravana Shri Murtiya Shraddhaye Sevana. So he's saying that there are five things which happens. Sadhu Sang, associating with the devotee. Then second is Nama Kirtan, chanting the glories of the name and chanting and doing the Sankirtan. The third thing he says is Bhagavad Shravan, hearing to the glories of Bhagavatam, hearing the Bhagavad Katha. Then Mathuravas, staying in the Holy Dham, or at least engaging in the festivals of the Holy Dham. And the fifth is, Shraddhaya Sevana. That is the Sri Murtiya Shraddhaya Sevana, means worshipping the deities or the Vigraha form of the Lord. So when the devotee do these five things, he is engaging himself in serving the Lord. And to our great fortune, Srila Prabhupada made this entire process very simple for us by establishing so many ISKCONs all over the world. So if you see in our temples, what we do sadhu sang. Right now we are doing sadhu sang. So what is the advantage of doing sadhu sang? When we are doing a sadhu sang, our mindset from thinking materialistic ways of life will go to the spiritual way of life. It is always said the man is always known by the company he keeps. So when we are associating with the sadhu, it purifies our mind. Then second is Nam Sankirtan. When we are in the temple, we are chanting the names of the Lord. We are dancing on to the Sankirtan of the Lord. Thereby we are engaging our hands, we are engaging our feet, we are engaging our mouth in chanting the names of the Lord. Then he says Bhagavad Shravan. So in the temple again, we see that there is a Bhagavad Katha going on in the morning, and then the Bhagavad Gita class goes on in the evening. So there is a transcendental topics of the pastimes of the Lord have been narrated. Then Mathuravas. Now, we may not have the fortune of staying in the dham, but when we go and visit the temples, it is actually going to the dham, because there in the dham there is a Lord, there are the pastimes of the Lord, there is a books which is going on, there is a transcendental name, there is nice prasadam, and there are devotees whose association is there. And in the temple, when we go, we are associating with the Lord in his wonderful pastimes. So whether it is going to when to celebrate Janmashtami, or to go to celebrate Govardhan Leela, or we go to celebrate Damodar Ashtam, in all the Damodar Leela, in all these things, we are actually participating in the Lord's transcendental pastime. And finally, we are using our eyes in seeing the beautiful form of the Lord and serving the Lord nicely. So in this way, Parikshit Maharaj is saying that the devotees who are engaged in, so they are, although they are transcendentalists, they are engaged in serving the Lord, they are nicely engaged. So that way they will never get frustrated in their seeking the happiness, because their happiness lies in the happiness of the Lord. So then he further states that there are three kinds of devotees. So one is a first class devotee. The first class who is an Uttama devotee, who normally doesn't discriminate between, he sees the Lord in present in each and every one of us. So he doesn't discriminate between a king and a dog, because for him, he sees the Lord presence in each and every living entity. He sees these bodies of different living entities as a temple in which the Lord is residing. That is the first class devotee. Then he says, then there is a second class devotee who will bow down to the other Vaishnavas and the devotees of the Lord, and who will also bow down to the spiritual master and the Lord. But he will still discriminate between the materialistic person and a devotee. And then there is a third class of a devotee who will not bow down to the Vaishnavas or to the devotees of the Lord, but he will only come and bow down in front of the Lord's deity and to the spiritual master. But he says that not everybody can become a Uttama Adhikari or the highest devotee in first go. But he says, nevertheless, even if somebody doesn't do that, even if somebody just bows down to the Vaishnavas and drinks the Charna Amrit of the Lord, will make his life perfect. When he said this, Parikshit Maharaj, when he said this about it, Srila Sukdev Goswami was in a transcendental bliss, and he was so happy that Parikshit Maharaj is understanding the Vaishnava philosophy. And with that, he says that, let me give you more nectar of telling about the different pastimes of the Lord. And then he starts narrating about the pastime of Sudama Brahman. Now, mind you, Parikshit Maharaj has been fasting for so long, and this entire incident happens in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, which is actually 10th. So, all this while, for 6 days, Parikshit Maharaj is sitting without any food. He's fasting, and he has not even taken a break. But still, he was not feeling that pain. Why? Because he was listening to this transcendental pastimes and the glories of the Lord and the entire Bhagavad Gita. So with this, Parikshit Maharaj first describes. So he says that there is a devotee friend, a Brahman devotee friend of the Lord, and then he describes the wonderful characteristics of Sudama. So in the 10th canto, the 80th chapter, this is the 6th sloka in which he describes it. So I read out the shloka. The shloka goes this way: Shri Sukha Vacha Krishna Yasit Saka Kashchit Brahmano Brahma Vittamaha Virakta Indriya Stetu Prashant Atma Jitendriya. So here there are 4 characteristics which he actually describes in this particular shloka. So first thing he says, Krishna Yasit Saka Kashchit. So a devotee, Saka means the friend of the Lord, a Brahman friend of the Lord. He said, Brahmo Brahmane Vittamaha, which means that he is transcendental. He has the complete knowledge of the Veda. He has a transcendental knowledge. He is well equipped with the transcendental knowledge of the Lord. Then Virakta Indriya Setu, which means that he has no desire for sense gratification. And since he doesn't have a desire for sense gratification, he is Prashant Atma Jitendriya. Because he doesn't have a desire for sense gratification, he is able to control his senses. And since he is able to control his senses, or his senses are in his control, he is in peace, he is in bliss, he is Atma Raman. He is in completely peaceful state. And in fact, in this context, in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, shlok number 70, Krishna describes that entire chapter in one shlok by describing that what is the characteristic of an Atma Raman. And And that the shlok for that is Apuryamanam achalla pratishtam samundram apaha pravashanti yatvat tatvat kamayam pravashanta sarve shashantanaptuti nakama kami. It means that the person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires, like how the rivers flow into the ocean. So Prabhupada writes in that purport is that the normally, when this rivers, when they flow into the ocean, or there is an excessive rainfall which happens during the monsoon time in the ocean is able to take all of this water without getting agitated. The ocean doesn't flood, the ocean doesn't cross its boundaries. Why? Because the ocean has depth, and because of that depth he is able to take all that water in it. Similarly, the person who is transcendentalist or who is a devotee, because he has a depth like ocean in his life, he is able to take this material desires which comes in. Since all of us, we are staying in this material world, so the material desires are bound to come. We cannot be escaping from it. But a devotee is has so much of spiritual depth in him that all these desires which comes in like an ocean, he's able to absorb them and keep it within himself. Unlike the river, when there is an excessive rainfall or there is a storm, the river crosses its boundary and creates flood all around. Why? Because the river doesn't have depth. So similarly, you can see an analogy here. A river is an analogy of a materialistic person. When there is a material person who doesn't have spiritual depth in him, so when all these desires which flows into it, what does happen? It creates a flood, and flood is a sign of destruction and chaos. So like in Mayapur Dham, we see the river Ganga, the mother Ganga, she always floods, but that is flooding is just to go and touch the feet of the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then Lord Nrsimhadev and Radha Madhav, and then coming back. But the river, when they flood, it creates a havoc. Similarly, for a materialistic person, because they are not able to absorb so much of desires, then what does it do? It crosses its boundaries, and then they go to any extent for the sense gratification and for sense pleasure. So Sudama, characteristic was that he was not only transcendentalist, he had the complete knowledge. He was a self-realized soul, and he has no interest in sense gratification, and because of which he is able to control his senses. And since he was able to control his senses, he was completely in the peace. He was in completely peaceful mind. So Sudama, being a grahastha, since after his, I'm so sorry for that. Sudama, being a grahastha, he had a wife and he had a children. Now, since he was never interested in the material ways of life, he was never even interested in earning money or indulging into his activities more into getting on more and more money. So as a result, he was a poor. But still, being poor and things, it was never bothered him. But his wife, who saw Sudama, she was feeling very bad about the fact about the conditions of their economical condition of life. Although she was also not she was a very chaste lady, and she was not that she wanted more of sense gratification or or more of wealth. But seeing that the husband in that state of time, she was feeling very bad because she was not able to serve her husband very nicely. Sorry, I just said water. Hare Krishna. So since Sudama's wife was not able to serve her husband nicely, and then she used to have a shortage of food. There's not even enough food in the house to serve her husband nicely. So she once pleaded to her husband that you are a friend of Krishna, who is now the king of Rajni. He is the king of the Mathura, and he is also the king of Dwarka. And Vishnis, he's a Bhoja dynasty is under him. Vishnis are under him, and Yadu. So he is now the king of all these three great dynasties. And more on that, he is the husband of the goddess of fortune. So Rukmani is the goddess of fortune. So why don't you, since he is your friend, why don't you go and meet him and ask for some some Lakshmi, some money, by which by getting some economical benefit, at least they will be having some better life to live. Now Sudama was never inclined towards it. Now generally, imagine if somebody is a poor who is a staying in a very poor state of life, and his friend is a billionaire of the country, then such a close friend, then obviously he will always go asking for some money and some financial help. But Sudama was, since he was never interested, he never thought of going to Krishna, approaching Krishna for all of this. But since his wife was pursuing him again and again, he thought to himself that it's a good opportunity to go. At least he will able to go and see the Lord himself. He is going to meet his friend and he will able to see the Supreme Lord in front of him. So he said, it's a very good opportunity for me to go and meet my friend and my Lord. So he told his wife that, do we even have something, because I cannot go empty-handed to my friend's house. I need to carry something with me. So his wife immediately went, and she actually went into 4 different houses. And it is said that this actually, the 4 houses belong to again the 4 different varnas. So it was house of a Shudra, Vaishya, Brahman, and Kshatriya. And she actually begged puff right, poha, from those. And the this puff rice, whatever she got, she wrapped it in a cloth, and she gave that potli to Sudama and said, yeah, this is what we have and this is what you can take. So Sudama picked up that the potli of rice, of puff rice, and he started walking towards Dwarka. So while he was walking towards Dwarka, he was thinking about the Lord, and he was so excited to see the Lord. Now, this is exactly, we can see that happens in our life when we are actually going to Vrindavan Dham. So when our journey starts from Bombay, from the station to the Vrindavan Dham, we are also in that ecstasy that finally we are going to the Dham, we'll be going to the place the Lord, we'll able to see the Govardhan. Similarly, that excitement is always there. And so Sudama was also excited to see the Lord in Dwarka. So when he reached the gates of Dwarka, he saw the 16,000 beautiful palaces, which are made from beautiful ornament, which has a beautiful metal and nice jewels on it. It has a lakes which were fully decorated with lotus flowers. And when he saw that there are so many different nice big roads, and it's a very nice description of Dwarka given there. And finally he entered in one of the palaces where the Lord was sitting with Rukmani. And from the distance, when the Lord saw Sudama coming, the Lord stood up and he ran to Sudama. And when he went and he ran to Sudama and he embraced Sudama with both his hands. And this is how, in one of the in the lectures I was listening, that when we go, finally, if we get a chance to go to Golok Vrindavan, that is where the Lord will invite us with that. Like he will run to us that we've been waiting for you for so long that you never came here. And so when Sudama came, Krishna ran and he embraced him, and he brought him and he made him sit on his own bed. And not only that, he ordered his maid servants to get nice pulps, sandalwood pulp, and he started applying on the feet of Sudama, and he washed his feet. Now, seeing this behavior of the Lord, the the servants who were there of the Lord, they were amazed. They said that Krishna will never embrace anybody else apart from Balram and Rukmani. And they started thinking, they started talking to each other that this Brahman Sudama must have done such a great, must be such a great devotee, and he has so much of fortune that the Lord is embracing him. And what to speak about that? He's making him sit on his own bed. And while he's sitting on the bed, Krishna, because Krishna is playing a role of a Kshatriya, he's sitting on the feet of Sudama and he's washing the feet of Sudama. And after washing the feet of Sudama, he's taking the Charnamrit of Sudama and he's sprinkling the water on himself and on Rukmani. Now, normally, we take the Charna Amrit of the Lord, and Charna Amrit of the Lord is a river Ganga which flows. It purifies the entire universe. We are taking that and we sprinkle on our head. Here, the Lord is taking the Charna Amrit of Sudama and is putting on his head and the head of Rukmani. So, somebody will see and say that, oh, what kind of devotee is Sudama? That how is allowing the Lord to touch his feet? And not only that, allowing the Lord to wash his feet and then taking the Charnamrit of his feet and the Lord is putting it on his head. And the Acharyas explain that Sudama, being Sakha of Krishna, for him, although even if the Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, and he still doesn't consider him as a supreme lord, he considers him as his Krishna as his friend. And in this is how the Vrindavan Dham is, where the Lord has a relation with somebody as a friend. The Lord has a relation as a son and of the parents, and as a lover. And for them, Krishna, they love Krishna not because he's a supreme Lord. They love Krishna because he's Krishna. And even if he's a supreme Lord, they can, even if he's supreme Lord, so what? We'll still continue to love you like that. And we may say that, isn't it an offense for somebody to put his charnamrit on the feet, on the head of the Lord? But for Sudama, in that moment, because Sudama didn't mind that, because that was giving so much of pleasure to the Lord. And in fact, in this context, there is a story where once, when the Lord was residing in Dwarka, and he complained of a headache. And when he complained of a headache, he told Uddhava that, go and get the dust from the feet of my devotee. And so Uddhava actually goes to the different yogis, and he goes to different places where this great sannyasis, the great brahmanas are there, and he asks for the dust from their feet. And when they inquire that why you want this dust, he said, I want to put it on the head of the Lord. They said, no, we cannot do this, because we'll be having so much, it will create so much of sinful reaction to us. But when the Uddhava went to Vrindavan, and when he told gopis about it, Gopi immediately removed all the dust and gave it to Uddhava. And Uddhava was surprised that just by one request the gopis gave. And he asked gopis that, aren't you afraid that you will get so much of sinful reaction because you're putting your dust on the head of the Lord? So the gopis answered that, even if this can give one moment of pleasure to the Lord, we are ready to suffer in the hellish planet for millions and millions of lifetimes. So same was the bhav of Sudama. And for Sudama, Krishna was considering Sudama as um, as Balram himself, as his elder brother, and he was nicely massaging his feet. And what to speak about that? Rukmani, the goddess of fortune, she was fanning him. And then uh, after doing that, now Krishna, he inquired with Sudama about his well-being. So he said that after completing the brahmachari ashram, and you being such a perfect transcendentalist, you have got all the transcendental knowledge. I'm sure that you would have got married to a very chaste wife, and you must be living your grahastha life very well. And since you never had any inclination towards material opulence and collecting wealth, I'm sure you must be always in the need of money. And I'm sure it would be really difficult for you to maintain your economical standards or economic form of life. And then Krishna is telling Krishna is telling Sudama that when one seeks a guidance from a proper teacher, or things, then his life will become successful, or he will become perfect in his life. And Krishna says that in everyone's life there are three gurus. So the first guru, the father, is considered as a natural guru, because one gets the body by the blessings of the father. Then the second guru is the one who gives the transcendental knowledge, and that is the Siksha Guru. And then Krishna says the one who gives Diksha becomes the Diksha Guru of the person. And Krishna says that the Siksha Guru and the Diksha Guru both are my representations. And one who serves them nicely will not only please me, but he will be perfecting himself, that he will be out of the material clutches. And then Krishna tells Sudama that, as a Paramatma, I am residing in everyone's heart. And I have ordered the human society to follow the Varna Ashram system. So there are four Varnas and there are four ashrams. So Krishna said that I want the entire society to run as per the Varna Ashram. Then only this human society will be perfect. But unfortunately, we see in today's time, nobody is following the Varna Ashram in today's society. And as a result, we can see there has been so much of degradation which happens. And we are actually living in an animalistic society, because in animalistic society, there is no Varna Ashram. that help happens only in the ashram of only in the human society if it follows the Varna ashram. Now, having said that, um, Krishna then further inquires from Sudama. He says that, do you remember that when we were small and when we were in the ashram of Sandipani Muni, and once it happens that the Guru Mata, she had ordered us to go and collect some wood from the forest. And you and me, we went while talking to each other and lost in our conversation. We went deep inside the forest. And while we were collecting, all of a sudden there was a great storm, and when that great storm came, there was flooding all over the place, and it soon got very dark. And we were actually lost. We didn't know to which direction we should we go. Now imagine he is the same Krishna when there was a flooding in Vrindavan. He lifted the entire Govardhan. And he is the same Krishna who is with Sudama, and he's saying that I have lost. I don't know where I'm supposed to go. And out of the fear of flooding things, they actually climbed the tree, and both Sudama and Krishna were sitting on the tree whole night. And then in the next day, Sandipani Muni, when he saw that the boys have not written in the night, he, along with his disciples, he went in search of them. And when he actually went in search of them, he finally found that both the boys are on the top of the tree because of the flooding. And um, uh, Sandipani Muni was very happy with both of them, seeing that they went ahead to perform the whatever the instructions were given by Guru Mata. And out of that, Sandipani Muni blessed both Krishna and Sudama that both of you will always live a very pious life, and all the transcendental knowledge what you have learned, you will never able to forget that, and you will live your life as a perfect yogis. So this was a blessing the spiritual master has given. And when Krishna says that when one performs a duty to his spiritual master, when one performs and follows the instructions of the spiritual master, by the blessings of the spiritual master, his life will become perfect. And that is where, in the Mangal Arati, we say, Yashya Prasada Bhagavat Prasado, Yashya Prasada Nagadita Topi Daya Sturam Tasya Yashyasi Sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam. So when one is able to follow the instructions of spiritual master, and one is able to follow and perform his duties as per the instructions of the Guru, he will be able to please Krishna. So when Krishna was able to please the Guru and things, they got the blessings. And finally, as the night passed, Sudama was sitting. He was when he was nicely residing in the night in the palace of Krishna. He can feel that he is actually staying in Vaikuntha. After all, he was in Vaikuntha because where the Lord resides, that place is Vaikuntha. And then, and the next day morning, um, uh, Sudama and Krishna, they greeted each other, and Sudama said, "Now it is time for me to go back." But then Krishna stopped Sudama. He said that since you have come, you have not offered me any gift. So what have you got for myself? What you have got for me? And Sudama was very hesitant in showing that small potli of chip rice, because he saw the opulence of the Lord, and the goddess of fortune next to him serving him. He was very hesitant in offering that to the Lord. So Krishna is Krishna after all. He snatched the potli from Sudama's hand and he opened it, and he saw this puffed rice. And when the moment he saw the quantity, although it was not a very great quantity, but when Krishna opened the potli and he saw this puffed rice, Krishna smiled and he said, Sudama, this quantity is not only good enough for me, but this will not only satisfy me, but it will satisfy the entire universe. So which we show that when one offers something out of love to the Lord, patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhakta prayashati. When one offers even the leaf, flower, water, and leaf the Lord accepts it when one offers it with devotion. And Krishna immediately took one feet of this and he put it in his mouth. And when he was about to do that, Rukmani holded hands of Krishna. She said that with one morsel of that puff fry, you have already satisfied the entire universe, and you have given with this one morsel, you have ensured that Sudama gets so much of material opulence, not only for this life, even for his next. And you do not have to take a second morsel of that rice. So with that, Krishna left eating further, And they finally greeted each other, and Sudama parted away. So they both parted away. And while going back, Sudama was thinking to himself that although I am such a sinful Brahman, I am such an insignificant person, and look how Krishna nicely treated me. And that is where we say Krishna is always, he's so much affectionate towards the Brahman. And in that context, Prabhupada also describes that how Krishna nicely even welcomed the Brahman who actually came, when Rukmani had written a letter to Krishna to come and, take her away before she can get married, forcefully get married to Shishupal. And when that Brahman came with the letter of Rukmani, Krishna nicely greeted the Brahmana and make him nicely sit and, nicely offered everything to him. So he was thinking that my Lord, my friend Krishna is so merciful to the Brahmana. He so nicely served, he sat down on my feet, he was washing my feet. And then he realized he actually didn't ask for any money from Krishna for that own purpose for which he had actually walked from there. Because and then he thought to himself that neither I asked Krishna for any wealth, nor Krishna offered me anything. And maybe he thought to himself that it's good that Krishna never offered me any wealth, because if I would have got wealth from Krishna, who knows, I would have become puffed up about my position. I with that wealth and opulence coming me, and that would have led to me my forgetfulness to the Lord. And that is why that Prabhupada also says that normally person who has a lot of wealth, he thinks that his wealth is the one which is his maintainer. Normally, a person who is a beggar or who is in a poverty stricken, but who is always devoted to the Lord, he is always relying on the mercy of the Lord. But when a person has a wealth, he thinks that he can actually take care or he can maintain himself with the help of his wealth. He considers his wealth as his strength and not the devotional service or the devotional service of the Lord as his strength. So may then Sudama thought to himself that it is nice that the Lord has not given me so that I don't get puffed up about my position and I'll be always serving him. Since and then he started walking towards his house. And to his surprise, when he reached his place, had transformed into a magnificent palace. And the opulence of that entire place was that even bigger and better than that of Lord Indra. And he saw nice big lakes around his thing, and the house was decorated with different ornaments, and his wife was looking like some damsel of heavenly planet. He could not actually recognize his wife, and she was decorated with all the jewels and things. And he found that there were so many maid servants who came and start serving him nicely, that, oh master, you have come. And Sudama then started thinking to himself that since birth I never had any material opulence with me. Neither I was any I had there was no, but it is just that my Lord, my friend Krishna is so merciful that it is because of him I have got all this opulence. And he started thanking Krishna for the opulence he got. Generally, if somebody gets a material wealth in his life, he will start thinking, oh, this is all happened because of me. Yes, sir, mere wajah se hua. I am the one, I am the karta of it. Because it of me that the wealth has come. But when Sudama got all this wealth, he started praying to the Lord. Although he was not at all attached to the wealth and the opulence what he got from the Lord, he started thinking that my Lord is so merciful that he has given me so much of wealth. And to this, there's another to the same story. There's another story which goes on the parallel lines, and that is the story of the fruit seller, which we all know. So this fruit seller, who was when Krishna came with a handful, some rice in his hands, and he wanted to trade that for those mangoes or some fruits. And when he was actually giving that, because Krishna was such a small boy that time, and with his feast, even the grains was falling down. And finally, he was able to give maybe 2 or 3 morsel of rice to this to this lady who was selling fruits, and she started giving all the fruits to him. And when she emptied her entire bucket by giving all the fruits to Krishna, and Krishna was saying that this is for me, this is for Nanda Baba, this is for Yashoda, this is for Yashoda Mai, this is for Balramji, this is for my friend. And he started taking all the fruits, and the entire when the basket got empty, and when this fruit seller, when she actually about to lift, the basket was full, was again very heavy. And when she actually saw the basket was full with gems and jewels, and what did she do? After she got this, she was not even attracted to all this. She immediately dumped everything and she ran back to the forest to seek more fruits so that she can go back and she can give Krishna and just see Krishna smile. This she just did to see Krishna smile. and that is the love what she was portraying. So same way, Sudama got so much of opulence around him, but he was never attached to that, and he always stayed, and he perfected his life by serving the Lord. And towards the end of the story, although he had all this opulence and everything, by performing his devotional service, he was able to go back to Godhead in his current life. So, what do we learn from this pastime is that first of all, we learn about the characteristic of Sudama. The characteristic of Sudama was that he was an Atmarama. He had no, he was a transcendentalist. He had complete knowledge of this. He had complete spiritual knowledge. He was never even interested in any material endeavors. And because he was not interested in material endeavors, his senses were in his control. And since his senses were in his control, he had completely peace of mind. And then we see that when he goes to the Lord, even he didn't have any opulence with him, he took something to the Lord. It shows that even when a devotee offers, even for a negligible things to Krishna, Krishna bestows so much of opulence to the devotees. Like, only when he knows that this opulence will not divert the attention or divert the focus of the devotee from him towards the material sense gratification. Otherwise, Krishna will not bestow so much of wealth. And we can see the same thing in the life of Srila Prabhupada. When Srila Prabhupada, we all know that how much struggle he had to do. And, so with his financial condition of his life and his house, from the point that he didn't even had money. But when Krishna started giving Prabhupada, today, even when he's not there, his opulence is growing multiple times, and the temples are growing, and the because he's using the wealth of Krishna in serving the Lord. So this is how Krishna is says that when he gives the wealth, and that wealth when it is used in service of the Lord, that even that multiplies even many folds, because that is how exactly happens in the life of Srila Prabhupada, and that is where we can see why these temples are growing. And all the other living example to that is our Guru Maharaj. And Prabhupada told him just have established at least one temple in Delhi, and look at the mercy of Prabhupada, that Guru Maharaj was able to establish 14 temples in Delhi and in the NCR region. Why? Because he is able to get the wealth, and he is able to utilize in service of the Lord, so that with the serving the Lord, this mission of Krishna consciousness can spread manifold. So this is what we learn from the life story of Sudama, that a devotee can go to, can even for a certain small, just to see smile on Krishna's face, devotee dedicate his entire life in serving him. And their only abhilasha is just to see Krishna happy. And that is what the abhilasha of Sudama was, that he just wanted to meet his friend and just to see him happy with whatever in limited capacity he has to serve him. So this is what we understand from the pastime of Sudama and Krishna. So this is what I was able to understand, and I was able to narrate. So I open up the screen, and if you have any questions or anything or any realization, uh, uh, please, I'll be happy to answer that. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram,